98.7 WFGR. You making my dreams come true. That's home of Andy O, Dave Cackley, and chances are, if you've ever been to see our next guest, you probably want to forget his name because of what you've seen him for.
And you're out of Valtrex.
Dr. Steve Triesenberg is here from the Andel Institute. Now, before we get into this talk about herpes, which there's a big herpes convention going on in town. Is that correct, Steve?
There is, Andy.
Talk a little bit about what's going on down there.
So this is a huge international meeting. This is the one big meeting each year for the people around the world who study herpes viruses to get together and to talk about it.
All right, so we got this convention going on, and you're making the media rounds this morning. You know, you were just over an Andy Rent's thing. Do we need protection of any kind?
No.
Yeah.
You going, studio to studio, so you're touching a lot of people.
Are you testing people around here today? Is that...
We're clean.
You're
okay,
good.
we're all good.
By now, it's too late anyway.
Yeah, true. Right. All right, so it's often, I don't know, snickered about.
Yeah, it kind of gets overshadowed by the
AIDS
virus.
It really does.
I mean,
in today's day and age, STDs and all this other kind of stuff are overshadowed by AIDS still.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't tend to think about it all that much. But it's a fact, and people have to deal with this. And you got started in the herpes business because you wanted to research even deeper than just the virus.
I was really interested in understanding how genes get turned on in the right cell at the right time. And viruses are just an easier way to start asking those questions because they use whatever the cell provides to turn on the virus genes.
I do what I can do to understand all this stuff, but it's just so far over my head. I mean, to simplify this kind of thing, where do you start with this? I mean, do you start with... I don't even know where to begin.
You said there's how many different types of herpes viruses? Because it's not just, like genital herpes. It's what other stuff are we dealing with besides...
So the one that you usually snicker about is HSV2, herpes simplex virus type 2, which is often transmitted as a sexually transmitted disease.
Right.
That's what Eddie Murphy was discussing back in the early 80s.
Herpes simplex 10.
That was 10. Oh, yes. Beverly Hills Cop.
I remember my Eddie Murphy stuff.
Yes.
I'm just so uneducated and don't understand any of this kind of stuff because I've never really been one to live at risk. But you know what? I've got the virus because I get cold sores.
Yeah.
So that's a different virus related. That's herpes simplex virus type 1, cold sore virus. And the hallmark of all of the herpes viruses is that once we get that first infection, maybe when we were a kid, it stays with us for the rest of our life.
What is generally the first way that a child would get that kind of thing?
Well, so there are 9 different human herpes viruses. One of those is chickenpox.
Yep.
So how do you get chickenpox? You go to somebody's house and you play with their toys after they've had chickenpox, and so you pick it up. Herpes simplex virus, the cold sore virus, often spread from mama kissing the kids. Mom's had the herpes virus, herpes simplex, since she was young, and so if she's got a little cold sore, spreads it to the kids.
Never going to look at my mom the same way again.
Thanks very much.
So what you're saying is, don't kiss your mother.
No, kiss your mother.
Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to help the audience.
But another kissing disease, infectious mononucleosis.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. The kissing, that's right.
Another
Richie
herpes?
got that in Happy
Another
Days.
herpes virus.
What about shingles?
Shingles is the reactivation of the chickenpox virus.
Okay.
So it's connected.
It's the same virus coming out of the same cells where it's been living all your life.
No kidding. What are the cases that you're seeing today? I mean, is herpes itself, especially the STD, is it up, down? I mean, as far as, the population goes, where does it stand?
The frequency in the population is really pretty stable. About 25% of Americans have been infected with herpes simplex virus type 2.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry. You have more?
There are pretty good treatments for that.
Yep.
But again, once you've had the virus, it's going to stay with you for life.
For life. And now, are there times when sexual activity is permitted with this disease without protection, or...
There are good ways to manage that, and you talk to your medical professional for the details.
Right? Okay. If people were interested in learning more about this, can they come down to the convention, or is this kind of like a thing just for super smart science guys that work on cellular levels and all this kind of stuff?
This is closed-door stuff, not so much because there are secrets that you can't know, but because the scientists are used to talking to each other in language and abbreviations and jargon that would be more confusing than helpful for others.
Keep the idiots out of the room, like Andy and Dave.
Wait, I got a question. I want to use those letters. I don't know what do those stand for. I don't know.
What is the progress going on with herpes now. I mean, is this something that will ever be eradicated, or is this something that's,
just they'll find ways to deal with it?
Find ways to deal with it. And we've been more successful with some viruses than others. Chickenpox we're doing pretty well on. There's a vaccine now for kids to prevent infection by chickenpox, and there's a vaccine for older adults to prevent the reactivation that causes shingles. So we've had some good success stories there.
All right, now, I had chickenpox as a kid. So what is, like, say, the likelihood that you're going to get, like, shingles or one of these other things popping up? What is basic ballpark?
The older you get, the more likely that you'll get a reactivation as shingles. By the time you're 60, it's about 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 5. By the time you're 80, it's about 1 in 2 that you get a reactivation that causes shingles.
Now, my wife has had the shingles. I mean, not that she's all that old or anything, but careful. Is it dramatically more painful than chickenpox? Because I remember chickenpox as a kid.
They just itched.
It sucked and it itched and you couldn't touch them.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it was terrible. But does it change over the years?
It does. So that first infection as chickenpox, we get the rash, it itches, it resolves, it goes away.
Yep.
When it reactivates as shingles, we get a rash. The rash goes away, but the pain lingers for a long time.
It does. She was very uncomfortable for quite some time.
And that pain, we call it post-herpetic neuralgia or post-rash pain. It was really very, very difficult to deal with.
What are some of the treatments for that kind of pain? What do you recommend as a physician? I mean,
we're still struggling to find good ways to treat. There are a number of things that people can try off the counter, and whatever works for you, go with that.
Yep.
One of the things we did at this conference was heard about the mechanism that triggers that pain. And so the idea is, well, now we know the mechanism, maybe we can find a way to intervene.
Okay. Now, you got into this, and this is where I really want to dig in, because you got into this because you're interested in working on a cellular level with DNA and all that other kind of stuff. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. Do you think in our lifetime we will see some of the stuff come to be that's being talked about, like on Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman right now, where you're going to be able to actually get in and manipulate somebody's DNA to fix things, change things, or build humans?
Build humans? I don't think we'll go there.
This is not a joke. I mean, you can laugh all you want, but they are. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong at all. So we can do a lot of those things with certain animal species right now.
Yep.
Right.
With mice, we can go in and we can take genes out or put new genes in, and with some reasonable efficiency.
So Mighty Mouse is not out of
we
order.
could have a superhero mouse, is what you're saying.
We haven't found the superhero gene yet.
All right.
I'm kidding a little bit, but this is all really cutting edge and somewhat controversial stuff.
Some of it is controversial, and that's why it's good to get it out in the public and good to get people talking about it.
Is it something that people should be afraid of, or I mean, personally, I mean, honestly, you've got your professional life,
right?
You've got your personal stance on things. Could we reverse aging? Is that a problem? Could we modify genes to the point where you're going to see somebody live to be 150, 200 years old, that kind of thing?
I think the goal for us wouldn't be so much to live a lot longer, but to live as long as we do in a healthy way.
Right.
That's really the goal for most of the research now.
And the research that's going on as far as disabilities and things like that, is that something that's going to be able to be corrected?
Some of them, we certainly hope so. Others may be more difficult, and we have to find ways to live better with the disease.
Right. I mean, it's just fascinating to me what these guys can do on a cell level.
Right.
They can get in and split DNA strands and all that kind of stuff. I love it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
It makes me feel smarter watching it on TV.
Right, yeah. So I feel smarter right now. Just
I feel it too, Andy.
Yeah,
and I do understand.
You do understand some of it. Well, good for you.
I got on a personal level with you being the herpes guy. No, seriously. And this is funny, but you've been in this business 30 years. You were saying, right? Now, did you meet your wife before you got into the herpes business, or were you already in it?
Why do you ask that?
Look, because that would be an interesting first date conversation.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do? Well,
I study herpes.
I met my wife, or the woman who would become my wife, in 5th grade.
Nice.
Oh, wow, that is so sweet. So that's way pre-herpes then.
But when we went to one of her office parties one time, and folks asked me what I did, there were a few of them who were a little reluctant to shake my hand.
They go to shake your hand, like, maybe not.
Oh, wow.
So with the Andel Institute here in town, I mean, you guys are doing some groundbreaking research, obviously, on herpes and cells and all other kind of stuff. And I see that you're also the dean, president of the grad school.
Wow.
We have a PhD program within the Andel Institute, and that's really why I came back to town.
I guess that's what I was getting at, though, with all this stuff going on at Andel Institute. What other things are being researched there that are groundbreaking?
We do a lot of cancer biology research at the Andel Institute, and there are some real breakthroughs coming through there. We also do a lot of research on neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Huntington's disease, and the like. We've got some real powerhouse people in that.
Yeah, we just had a guy in last week talking about Huntington's disease. And it's just one of those things you don't hear much of at all.
So it's great work they're doing at the Andel Institute. And
what kind of advice would you offer to people that suffer from any form of the herpes, any one of the 9?
Read up on what you can, talk to your physician, and we can see if we can find useful treatments to help you.
And be a little more discerning in your dating life as well.
That goes for you.
Hey,
I'm married. Don't look at me, man.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm always discerning.
Dr. Steve, thanks so much. And you guys got some kind of T-shirts down there, I understand?
Yeah.
That everybody's watching. These are the buzz. These are what's going on.
We do have T-shirts. They're a beautiful blue color, sort of matches the Grand Rapids water theme. We've got a very nice emblem on the front for our conference. And on the back is a map of the state of Michigan.
Yep.
With a little herpes virus parked right where Grand Rapids is. And the title on the back says, "Herpes is here."
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's an awful subject, and it's something if people have to deal with it for a long, long time, you really hope that is some kind of treatment that would come through. One more question, with all this treatment and all this other kind of stuff going on, and I almost hate to bring it up because I'm kind of a pessimist on a lot of this stuff. Do you think that cancer is curable through a cellular level or do you think that through cellular research, I mean, way down to DNA and all that kind of stuff, is it curable? And will that cure ever come out because of the fact that there's just so much money to be made in treatment of cancer and all that? I mean, all the doctors say they would like to they would love to eradicate this. They would like to be done with it, all these diseases and all that kind of stuff. But that's really kind of, a bite into your industry.
So cancer is really not one disease. Cancer is 100 or hundreds of different diseases. Will we find a cure? We already have pretty good cures for quite a number of cancers. There won't be one cure that will hit all of the cancers.
See, I think that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
That it's multiple type things and stuff like that. All right. Well, good enough. Steve, thanks so much for coming in.
Andy, Dave, thanks very much.
And I'm not afraid to shake your hand.
Yeah, there you go.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to hug him.
We're not going to
watch this. Dr. Steve Triesenberg, thanks so much. The cancer thing, or the herpes thing wraps up today.
We finish our conference today. We have a banquet tonight out at Meyer Gardens.
So how you go? You're partying at Meyer Gardens.
We are.
Good times.
Good times. All right, we'll put this up as a podcast a little later on. Thanks so much. It's something that doesn't get talked about enough, but it's certainly out there, and it could affect you.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
So I knew it was important to have life insurance to protect our family, but I was putting it off. But then yesterday, a girlfriend of mine asked me, point blank, what would happen if you lost your husband? How would you pay the bills? The mortgage? The car payments? Food? And that's when it really hit me, and I realized I needed to get us life insurance right now.